Welcome to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast, where we explore personal, professional, and financial success stories of top achievers. Let's dive in.
Hey guys, my name is Tristan here on Pathways to Prosperity. I'm here with Zach. I've actually met this guy a few weeks ago. Really hit it off, told him about the podcast and what we're doing, and really wanted to kind of bring him on, give him his journey, tell us what he's doing and how he's becoming successful and just prosperous in his business. So, hey Zach, can you give us a quick snapshot of like your business for us?
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on today. My name is Zach Sorrentino. I am a real estate entrepreneur here in the Tampa Bay area. I've been doing this business now going on 5 years. And so when I started out, I was just actually an acquisitions person, right? So I'd be cold calling, talking to homeowners on the phone, trying to help them, set appointments, go out to properties, see them, make offers, things like that. And through my journey, I've gone from an acquisition specialist, I guess you could call it, to being able to purchase my own properties as fix and flips, actively wholesale properties to my group of investors that I work with closely. And then we're currently building our rental portfolio as well. So definitely didn't come overnight. Didn't start really on my own until about 3.5 years of doing it. And then I finally stepped away and started doing it under my own company and under my own LLC and things like that. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Well, so like, if you don't mind me asking, like, so there's a lot of competition in this space, right? Especially being in like the RIAs or just like seeing other people and how they invest in the real estate game. Like, what do you think sets you apart, and what comes easier to you than it does to other people, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think the biggest thing that's kind of helped me out is I look to help the homeowners more than anything. As
Hmm.
I'm sure you know, in this business, there's a lot of greedy people that can really take advantage of homeowners in distress situations. And so where I've kind of come in and my mindset has always been that if I can understand their whole situation, right, ask good questions about what they're going through in their life,
Hmm.
understanding that and educating them on the different options or different paths that they can take, and you don't really have to sell a homeowner on making a decision. You can give them all the facts and then they can feel comfortable making their own decision.
Hmm.
And through that, I feel like that has worked out a lot for me in my business, whether we're purchasing properties, or if we're able to help the homeowner, save their home from pre-foreclosure or things like that, right? So, um, growing in this business, I've always said to myself that I want to be a good investor, not necessarily just like a good wholesaler or a good fix and flip fix and flipper, or even just a good buy and holder. So, we never buy every house we look at, and that's
Okay.
okay, right? Because sometimes homeowners maybe want to sell, they don't need to sell, or vice versa.
Hmm.
So if we can leave them better than we found them, and there's no real estate emergencies, I think that's really kind of helped me continue to grow, without overstepping or taking on too much that I can handle. Or, sometimes, people just want to grab every deal they can. And for me, I haven't been like that. I'd rather, pass on a couple and just make sure everything's good. Because I take into consideration that, when we're buying a home from someone, it's their biggest decision, right? There's moving parts,
Hmm.
there's packing, there's finding other properties, there's funds that are involved with, whether they're grabbing storage units to move their stuff into, right? So I think a lot of investors just see the quick, easy money. They don't take
Yeah.
it necessarily into consideration a lot of the other stuff that goes on with a transaction in the business. So
Well, it's like I feel like that's just like those bad nuggets, right? It's like every business usually comes out of good heart. And then when people see all the money that's being made, then there's other investors who come in here who just try to take up all the money, take up all the everything they can, and just
yep,
kind of give the smaller bits to everyone else. So I think it's
exactly.
really good to have that heart. I think once you have that heart still, and you see it not as an aspect of like being the bigger man, but being on level field, I think people understand that. I think that's a really big thing.
Right. Yeah, and I
But
mean, for me, like I want to be in business a long time. So you see a lot of people
mhm,
that maybe have quick or short success,
right.
because of the things they practice in their business. For me, it's like I'm not a greedy person. I'd rather, make it a mutual win for everyone. So
Mhm.
we can stay in business a long time, because real estate is very lucrative. But also, it's a very big value skill to have too, to be able to help people solve those problems. So, um, I'd rather help more people than try and pinch every little penny out of a deal. And, ultimately not help a homeowner, which is what I always hope to do.
Yeah, it's it's especially it's hard now, right? It's like the market's in its own it's playing its own hula hoop game where it's going up and down and it's just and then people can't afford. I mean, I was just doing like I saw a statistic recently, like it's an average household's like 75,000. But
Yeah.
then everything on top of that, like you can't really afford milk. I mean, milk is like what, $4 already? And
Right.
gas is skyrocketing high. It's just a lot of things that like the average person thought that they can afford is can't. And so on top of that, people can't afford for their own house. And then it's good to have someone who's trying to see like the ways that they can help, not on the fix and flips, but also like just at a basic need, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of investors see that way. I mean, which is in the discrepancy keeps getting bigger and bigger for the higher middle class, and the people who suffer are the middle class in general from the lower class because they're the ones who are working the hardest and they're there, but they're not. It's that one step that they feel like they can't make.
Right. And it's drawn challenges in the investment side of things too, because obviously a lot of investors, they just overpay for stuff so they can control the
Hmm.
market. For me, like I said, there's no real estate emergency. So I pass on deals all the time, um, because I have, my set in stone numbers that I like to do at a minimum. And if I don't get those, then it's no big deal.
Right.
So
Well, it's good to have that unique and that niche that you have because, like you say, you have deals that you could pass up on or deals you have, but once you understand like your niche and your uniqueness, people really see that. They see that like you're successful in that certain thing for a reason, right? Like you're not going to trying to please everyone or make every deal. You're trying to find something that matches you, and that's what you do. That's what you do the best at, and that's what something that people don't understand. Like everyone wants to be great at everything, but it's always that one saying where you can be great at a million things or one thing. You
right.
can people would rather be a master at one thing because that's what you know.
Yeah.
So if someone was listening to us right now and wants to get better in the real estate air, in like that sector, like what would you suggest they do, and what kind of tips would you give them?
For me, I found a mentor when I first started because I felt
Right.
like having someone doing the business at the level that I wanted to do it at was super important.
Hmm.
And so that was the biggest tip I've had is growing into, I was patient, I guess, at that aspect because I wanted to learn the acquisitions part of it before I learned everything else.
Hmm.
Another thing is everyone wants to know everything right away, or like how to do the whole thing from finding the deal to funding the deal to flipping it,
Yeah.
right? To where I always say with people that I help and coach that you need to get really good at being able to talk to a homeowner and find out what
Hmm.
is what's the situation they're going through. Because without that and without building rapport and trust, none of the other stuff really even matters, right? The offer you make
Right.
to a homeowner, if you're only on the phone for 10 minutes, there's no trust, there's no rapport. They don't know you from the next person that's going to call them in 15 minutes asking them what they want for a property, right? So I think just slowing down and really focusing on the steps it takes is a big part if someone was wanting to get into it. There's a
Hmm.
ton of free scripts that at least help you have a flow of a conversation. We hate when people sound like a cold caller, right? And it's very scripted, but it's
Yeah.
very important at the same time to understand what you're going to be saying in a flow. That way you can then focus on how you say it. And I think that has been a big part for my success is focusing on sticking to the outline that I have of, talking to them about the condition of the property, right? Really diving into why they're looking to sell or what's got them thinking about selling, how long they've been thinking about it. I like to paint the picture of, what do you do after you sell or where are you going? What does that look like? Are you renting? Are you buying another home? Do you need
Hmm.
more time in the property after we close? Because we have a couple options there. So like I think that's very important. The number side of things, to be honest, I feel like is very black and white, to be honest.
Okay.
We have softwares and systems that we can run comparables, right? So they're facts
Hmm.
of the neighborhood. At the end of the day, there can't be too much emotion in those things because that's just what the neighborhood's telling us, right?
Right.
So I think that's a big part for me. If someone was wanting to get into it, is there's so much free education. A lot of times everyone just goes to paying like a
Yeah.
education company or things like that. And I even coached in one too. And it's just without doing the business yourself, all the knowledge you can pretty much find for free. But
Mhm.
until you're implementing it, it's not going to resonate the same with you, you know? So you can get all these case studies and things like that of other people doing deals,
Mhm.
but having a deal where, you know, you talk to Miss Susie, who's losing her house in pre-foreclosure because her husband passed away, right? And she can't afford it. You're gonna remember that way more than me just telling you a story.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel like it's I mean everyone wants, like you said, like the kind of quick get rich kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like they go to all of these people who say, "Oh, like you come here, I can show you everything." But
Mm-hmm.
they don't show everything. They always have a certain piece out so you come back for more. And
Yep.
I feel like that's like having a mentor personally. I mean, I have a mentor, a business partner. Mainly he's my business partner, but he's shown me more than I can ever imagine.
Yeah.
And that itself, I've learned tenfold. I mean, I know that I would be eventually successful in something,
Right.
but I don't know when, right? It's like it's always about time. And I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that having a mentor really accelerates that. It really accelerates like understanding like where to look for. Like they made their flaws and
Mm-hmm.
now they're not trying to hack so you will make the same one, right?
Yeah. And you
So
know, like that's such a big part because even
mhm.
having all the knowledge is great, but without knowing the steps necessarily how to implement the knowledge,
Right.
right? I think that's where the hugest part of having a mentor is they can back it up, but they can show you where you can implement those things too. Because
Mhm.
having knowledge is great, but if you can't implement it in a situation or a scenario, then it's yeah, you're twiddling your thumbs.
Now you're just kind of sitting there like, oh, what do I do now? Like I've had all
Right.
the scenarios up here, and it's like you can have all the answers, but it's just like like you said, how to implement it.
Yep. Yeah,
So
like one of the things I do with a couple of my guys on my team is we'll do script training, but we'll go over objections too. And so
mhm.
we'll go over it for 30, 45 minutes. And then I'll say, all right, now we're going to get on the phone and you're going to get an objection we didn't go over, right? Because until you get
Mm.
into it real time, there's always going to be another question or another thing, right, that comes up that we're not prepared for. So it's kind of funny, right? How we can prepare as much as we want, but until
As much
you're
as you
in
want,
the
yeah.
situation.
Yeah, and then you're just kind of you feel like you're just you feel when you're not like you're prepared for it, like you're not able to think on your toes, and it's just it kind of just goes out the window.
Right. And that's why the script to me, I feel like is such a big piece when I was getting into it. And even now, right? It's because if
Hmm.
you kind of already have a flow and an idea of what you're going to say, you don't have to focus on that as much and you can really listen to the homeowner, but then you can focus on how you're going to say things, right? Or where you would like the conversation to go and how you can help get those questions answered to really find out, you know, what the problem is. Because,
Hmm.
you know, truthfully, the thing I found is without the trust part of it, right? Because you're trying to do a lot of stuff for us on the phone and then set an appointment to go out to it. We get a lot of like answers where you think it'd be motivation, but it's just an objection, right? Like, oh, what's got you thinking about selling? Oh,
Hmm.
well, the house is too small. We need a bigger one, right? Or I'm moving out of state, right? Well, that's a part of their motivation, but why are they moving
Right.
out of state, right? What's going on in that situation? And so that's just with, I think, a little more trust and time built, you know, talking to them, you'll find out, or asking the question a different way, you know, things like that.
Yeah, like digging deeper and not just seeing the surface, right? I
Right.
feel like I think the society now is more surface level, and I love to get to know people personally, just because that I am also I've been in the restaurant for about 7, 8 years,
Okay.
or it's in the industry, and so it's really hard to find people who are really wanting to know the actual why, the actual
Right.
here, and like an actual person itself. So I really like the fact that you're thinking not just about like like obviously it's a business, but you want to get personal to a point to like understanding like the reason why someone does something, and that I
Yeah.
think a lot of people miss that. So
Yeah. It's funny because it's like, although I'm a real estate entrepreneur, I feel like really I just focus on solving people's problems, but it's tied
yeah,
with real estate. You know, like
yeah,
getting a deal or talking to a homeowner to put a property under contract, it's very, like maybe, in my opinion, 30% about the house, right? Because that's all
right.
condition and price, where everything else is their situation, their why, what it's going to do for them, how they're going to be able to
Mhm.
handle it all. So it's, you know, we focus a lot more on that than the house per se.
All right. Yeah, no, I definitely understand that. It's once you start feeling like I feel like that once you start getting to like the actual career side of everything, you have to understand all the aspects, and that's
Right.
good once you grasp that. So,
Mm-hmm. For sure.
so what is one of the biggest challenges you've had to overcome in your career so far?
I would say probably like a confidence level and comfortability level. When I
Okay.
first started, obviously I was working with other people in my business where I wasn't necessarily the owner, so I wasn't taking on quote unquote all the risk. Although I
Hmm.
would make the offer, put the property under contract, figure out what exit strategy we were going to have, whether it was wholesaling or fix and flipping or even keeping as a buy and hold. Now, when we transitioned into me just owning my own company and doing the fix and flips and wholesale and stuff, it definitely, although I knew what I was doing and I knew the numbers and everything, just having that reassurance was a big challenge for me, I guess. Like right now we have over $1 million of funds out on properties we're rehabbing. If you would ask me 2 years ago if I could have done that without being completely stressed out every day, it'd probably be a heck no. So
Yeah, you're right.
and so like through that, it wasn't just like one day I decided, hey, I'm doing all of it on my own. I left there and then I'd partner with a couple people during my rehabs where we'd split profits, and we leveraged the risk together. And so that gave me that reassurance that, okay, well, I'm not the only one that thinks this is a good deal, right? So
Right.
definitely is a slow progression, but the confidence, that's been a big part, I think,
Mhm.
especially in the market we're in, right? I mean, things are changing every day, where luckily we're conservative and we're safe with our numbers, so that's always been a good part. But at the end of the day, we don't want to lose money, and we want to make sure we're helping homeowners. So I would say that's the biggest thing I've overcome in the past few years.
Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like you've been doing very well with your business and, been striving to do even better and greater things. So,
Yeah.
a lot of people are looking, the future doesn't look so great for, the middle class and lower class. But what do you think we can do to kind of help them understand how to create passive income or even replace their income? Like, what are your thoughts about that? Like different avenues.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think the tough part that I've seen in my experience with even trying to bring people onto our team is the time aspect, like we kind of talk about. I think
Right.
everyone just wants it right away, and they don't realize how much time and effort it takes to put into things. I mean, for me, I'm just speaking for real estate, I guess, because that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years. But it
Mhm.
took me 3 to 4 months before I got my first deal doing it full time. Luckily, my wife let me leave my job and focus on real estate full time because we were able to afford it at the time. But it's not something that just happens overnight. And so having that constant commitment, whether it's an hour or two a day or 4 hours a day, right? I think just having realistic expectations of what the outcome that they want is
Okay.
a big part of that. If you want to reiterate your question too, I could probably answer it better. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. No, I was just it was saying I mean you pretty much said what it was. I was just trying to say how could other people create passive incomes and even replace their current income? But I
Gotcha.
mean the time aspect like you're saying is it's a big deal, right? You have to
Yeah.
have that time and that the able to see the future versus just seeing the now.
Yeah, for
So,
sure. That's yeah, because like for context, right, before I got into real estate, I owned a business that I worked on cars, right? And for
mhm.
3 years I'd work from 8 in the morning to 10 at night. And I think the last year I was there, I made maybe $30,000. Right. And so I gave
Mm,
it 3 years of effort. And to me that felt like a reasonable amount of time to put into something to see a reward where,
right.
you get a lot of people that start in real estate and they're like, I want to get into wholesaling, and they'll do it for maybe a month and they'll be like, well, I didn't get $30,000 in wholesale
Yeah.
deals. I'm out. I'm going to go back doing something else. And it's like, no, that's the problem too, is you almost can't be tied to the money aspect of it. You have to be tied
Mhm.
to helping a homeowner or, what the outcome will do for someone, not the money. We always say if you focus on the work, the money will come. If you focus on the money, you look for the work, right? So I think that's something I think people can really get caught up on in today's world as well. If they're trying to replace an income or something like that, like find something you
Yeah.
enjoy and then continue to work at it every day.
Yeah, I feel like that I feel like social media has been really bad at that. I feel like
Okay.
that it's like they see like, oh, like come over here, I can show you how to make 30K in like 2 months.
Yeah.
But then like, oh, but then the backside, like there's no guarantee, right?
Right.
And there's no guarantee on anything.
Mm-hmm.
And people see these fast cars, like these Lamborghinis and these nice mansions, but I mean, essentially, they're just all cutouts of just one big clip, just made
Right.
into multiple aspects.
Yeah.
So
Or
it's
even like,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, like I'm a big car guy, right? But I've been
Mhm.
I've been doing it for 5 years, but people think it just happened overnight, right? Like,
You're
no,
like,
it
oh
took
yeah,
me.
this happened yesterday.
Yeah, but they don't see when, me and my wife, we went down to one car at one time to cut on expenses because we were, at the beginning stages of our real estate journey. So
Hmm.
pinching every penny we could, right? Trying to make it happen. Now we're, doing very well in business and stuff like that. So it's paid off, but people don't ever see that. Like you said, it's just they want it quick and they just see all that stuff and think it just happens overnight.
Yeah, it's it's so funny. It's I've definitely had my fair share of cutting expenses, and I never thought like there was a Jim Carrey. He said that if you're not willing to live below your means for at least a year, you're not able to be successful. Something
Right.
around that. But it's
Like
something that's true.
you care too much about what other people think or something, I think,
Hmm.
right? So it
Yeah.
says,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Honestly, he's probably one of my favorite comedians. So,
Yeah.
um, but as we're wrapping up the interview, what exciting plans do you have for the next 6 to 12 months?
Um, Business wise or just in general?
You can do either or. I mean, you can do both if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, business wise for me, I'm actually been struggling lately because we've done very well this year. But, for me, I always like to continue to grow and see what else we can do. And so I think I've been
Hmm.
battling what does the next 6 to 12 months look like.
Okay.
And so I'm excited just to continue to grow with our partners. We've added a lot of people that we work with this year in our business as far as the flip side things, wholesaling, getting more team members on the team for that. Um, Fun stuff for the family. I think we're going up to the mountains in maybe a couple months.
Mm,
I'm a big car guy, like I mentioned. So
yeah.
up in North Carolina, there's the Tail of the Dragon and some other really good driving roads that I like to do. So me, my
Okay.
wife, and a couple of our friends will grab an Airbnb up there for a week and hang out. And then
That'd be really
really,
cool.
I mean, holidays, I love being with the family. So Thanksgiving, Christmas, all that stuff's coming up. We were just in Georgia last weekend with my brother and my mom and dad. So we stayed up
Mhm.
there for the weekend. So yeah, I mean, I just enjoy hanging out with the family and doing car stuff. And really, I love real estate too. So it's
All of
everything.
the above, right?
Yep,
No, it's really good to have that family orientation. You know, some people when they start getting and they start diving deep into like their business, they kind of sometimes forget. So it's good to have that balance.
for sure.
So that's something that everyone needs to have that kind of that family balance, a lifestyle balance, and just have fun. You know, have fun when you do. Like you said, you love real estate, you love the cars, and hopefully one day you can. I don't know if you do, but even incorporate both of them. I don't know how, right? You
Yeah,
can, but there's always ways, right? That's the thing. You can make a new niche to like incorporate that. So,
right. Heck yeah.
well, thanks Zach for your time.
No problem. Thanks for
If you
having
don't
me.
mind, oh yeah, no, of course. If you don't mind, like, how could they reconnect or reach out to you if they for our viewers?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. ZSORR4 is my Instagram name. So if they wanted to reach out there or find me on Facebook, Zach Sorrentino. Happy to help or answer questions or partner on anything or, I'm an open book. So happy to share my experiences and failures and hiccups and all the above. So
All right, man. Well, thank you very much for your time.
you're welcome.
I'll definitely try to keep in mind, and we'll kind of go from there. All right.
Sounds good, man. Thanks for having me.
Cool.
You guys have a good rest of your week.
You too, sir. Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Pathways to Prosperity podcast. Got a success story to share? Visit pathwaystoprosperitypodcast.com/guest and apply today.